To learn the good, the bad, and the reality of the off-grid lifestyle, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. So the other day, I was telling you that my piece of property has a well on it. It doesn't have a well pump, it just has a well. I showed you pictures of it where the well pipe comes right up to the surface of the ground. So many people commented that I need to worry about the well being contaminated. Things run off in there, animals fall down into it, and I agree. And there's methods and ways to actually sanitize your well. And really all you got to do is pour chlorine down into it. Tons of YouTube videos on how to do that. But my standard answer is I'm not that worried about the well water. I will, of course, chlorinate the well and purify it to make sure it's okay. But in the end, I've been living the nomadic lifestyle for 3 years. And just back in September, I was taking water out of streams in Utah, filtering it myself. And what I was using is the Berkey. Now the Berkey is a water purification system that has 2 scientifically made carbon filters. And I've been using this for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I am not a sales representative for Berkey. Now, if you go to the Berkey website, they have different size Berkey capacities. They got a big one, maybe it's like 4.5 gallons. This one is the Royal, I think it's called the Royal Berkey. Not sure, and it doesn't matter, I'm not a salesman. And this one's 3.5 gallons. And then I think they have another one that's 1.5 gallons. Now, had I bought this one again for the nomadic lifestyle, I would have actually bought the smallest one. This one's just too big to travel with. Now that we're gonna be living off grid, this is gonna be a perfect size. But the thing is I don't actually store water in it. So I'm gonna go through all that. So the Berkey is a 2-stage gravity system. So what you have is the upper stage, and the upper stage has 2 black filters. You can put 4 filters in there, so it's faster. So what happens is you fill the top up with water, and the water then drains down through the filters to the bottom stage, which is nothing more than just an empty tank. And so normally what people do is they fill the top tank full for 3 gallons, it drains down, and then they just let it sit in that tank, and when they need to drink water, they put their glass up under here and it drains out some water. But I have learned doing that makes the filters wear out faster. These filters are designed to last 6 years. 6,000 gallons is actually what it is, and they estimate that's about 6 years. I haven't ever had a filter last that long because I really use it under really harsh conditions. My last set lasted 1.5 years, but even at that, these filters are only $100 per set for every 2. So that, it comes up to about 10 cents a gallon, which is a lot cheaper than what you can buy in store. So what I do, I fill the top chamber up with water. And then when the water gets to the top of the filter here, I fill it back up. And then I let it drain back down and I fill it back up. Drain, fill back up, you get the idea. Until I have this thing full. Then what I do is I put my water into this. And that's what I drive around with. You got to understand, if I drove around with this with full of water, it'd just splash out everywhere. That's why this is not really the best system for nomadic lifestyle. But for drinking quality water, it is absolutely the best. And then I just dump the water out of the top stage. So now both chambers are empty. The bottom chamber has all the water in the Rubbermaid. I've just dumped out the water in the upper stage. And then all you have to do is nest it together. And so then you can drive around with it nested together like that. Now this is the bottom side of the top chamber. And so those are the white tabs there are the blanks. I can put extra filters there if I wanted to. And then the black ones is the filter. And it's just a wing nut. What I've noticed about the wing nut though, if you take this off and put it back on, take it off, put it back on, these wing nuts start to slip. So I never take them off. Now, there's a step on this that you got to do when you first get your filters. You got to prime the filter. And what this is a priming gasket. And so I've got 2. You usually only get 1, but I've went through so many sets that I saved my gaskets, and now I can just put 1 in each one. But if not, you just switch it back and forth. And now you have to prime it with clean water. And the reason you have to prime it is because the carbon on the filter is packed so tightly that you can't get the air out of it just with gravity fed. So you have to prime it. Now there's two ways to prime it. One way, you can stick your hose right there or put it up underneath a faucet and you can prime it. Now the instructions they show you shows that the filter is not connected to the Berkey. I have learned that it's so much easier to prime the filter with the filter just like this. I can stick my hose on there and prime it. Now there's another method which I use. I take a water bottle and I just fill it up with Berkey water that I've already made. I got my Berkey water in this bottle and I just put it right on the gasket and then squeeze. And now the water is going through the filter backwards, which will prime it. Now you have to use your filters every 3 days or they dry out. When they dry out, you have to prime it. Since I use this 5-gallon bucket, it takes a lot longer than 3 days to drink that much water. So I prime mine every time. Now when I was in Utah, we were using this much water every day, Carolyn and I was, and I would come over to the Berkey and it would be dried out in one day. When the humidity is real low, like and hot in Utah, you got to do it all the time. Now, when you prime these for the first time, you're going to do it with a hose. You're going to stick the hose right on there. And you're supposed to let that water run for 60 seconds on each filter. But when I do it just to reprime it after a few days, I just use 2 bottles of water on each one. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Since I did it with the top chamber inside the bottom chamber, of course now I have what's going to be potentially dirty water. When you're out there using stream water, you're going to want to make sure that this is dried out and that clean it out real good. But I'm just going to dump the water out. I'm going to put the top chamber on. And now I'm going to fill the top chamber with water. For an extra added layer of cleanliness, I use this little Walmart house filter. You can buy the canister at Walmart for I think it was $30. And then it has a little paper charcoal filter. You couldn't use it to drink stream water or anything. But what it does is it helps remove any rust and large particulates in the water, so the Berkey doesn't have to work quite as hard to clean all that out. Now, there is a slight problem with the Berkey that if you leave this on and it's got water in it and you try to get water out of here, this seam right here causes such a vacuum that water will run out of this real slow. So the solution is, what Berkey tells you to do is when you put the top canister on top of the bottom canister, put a paper clip, just hook a paper clip over that, and it'll keep it from drawing a vacuum. Makes all the water come out as fast as possible. In order to figure out if your filters are still usable, about every 3 to 6 months, I do mine every month, you can test the Berkey to make sure that the filters are still working correctly. The way you do it is you put red food coloring. Now, what you're going to want to do is go online and actually look this up. But you put, I think, 1 teaspoon of food coloring in for every gallon that you put into the top here. So that's 3.5 gallons. You put 3.5 teaspoons of red food coloring in there. And so what happens is when it filters out to the bottom stage, all that red food coloring is going to be removed. If you see any red water in the bottom, then you know that the filters need to be replaced. Now, the reason I don't let the water drain all the way down to the bottom and just let it sit here is because I have learned that if you do that, the bottom portion of the filter is going to wear out faster than the top portion of the filter. And so by always using a full tank the entire time that I'm filtering, the entire filter is being used the entire time. It will allow the filter to have a longer life expectancy than if you just continuously let it just drain all the way down. Now, of course, that's how they advertise it. That's how it's set up. You fill it and leave it and it's done. All right, so as you can see, the water is almost to the top of the filter now. So I will just fill it back up. And that only took maybe 3 minutes for that to happen. And I'll repeat until I have all the water that I need. And so now all I got to do is just empty the water from the Berkey into my Rubbermaid. Thanks for watching. Click like if you like the video, and happy travels.